Welcome back. This is LTC 03 in our long-term care predictability series. Today, we're going to be solving one of the most expensive problems in long-term care, the clinical ambiguity that shows up late and forces redesign. I'm going to give you a one-page tool called the MVCP, or the Minimum Viable Clinical Program, so you can lock the decisions that actually drive layout before you approve a plan direction. Now, this is for operators and administrators, directors of nursing, clinical leaders, facilities teams, and development partners. The stakes are straightforward. If the clinical program is vague, the plan changes late. Late changes ripple into the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and doors and hardware and security and phasing. And even if the project survives the redesign, operation can end up working around the building instead of the building supporting safe practice, creating survey exposure and staff stress. Here's the predictable pattern. The team starts drawing with a general idea of the program. The drawings gain momentum. Then someone finally asks the clinical questions that change layout. Observation requirements, safety thresholds, medication handling, clean and soiled flow, peak throughput. That's when late clinical clarity forces redesign, and redesign is rarely contained to just moving a wall. It ripples into systems and schedules. So let's define the MVCP clearly. The minimum viable does not mean minimum quality. It means the minimum set of clinical decisions that must be made before layout decisions become safe and predictable. The MVCP is not a policy manual. It's not marketing language. It's a decision set. Answers that change flow, sightlines, controlled access, and support spaces. So here's the rule. If the MVCP isn't complete, you can explore concepts, but you should not lock a layout direction. Note that your design team is probably going to charge you for those concepts that are being delivered. So having this tool will certainly help give them direction. So here's the MVCP decision set. It fits on one page. It produces outputs your design team can actually use. Non-negotiable adjacencies, staff and observation notes, support space modules, and a go or no-go gate for the layout lock. So a quick note here is that requirements vary by program and jurisdiction. So this is not medical or legal advice. This is a practical alignment tool to prevent predictable redesign. Part A is a population and risk profile, because risk drives layout. Start by stating who you are serving. Then list your dominant risks: fall risk, wandering or elopement risk, escalation or aggression risk, infection risk, medication complexity, cognitive or mobility impairment. You don't need perfect numbers, you need clarity about what dominates. And then capture what you expect to change in the next 3 to 5 years, because designing for only today's population can create tomorrow's operational failure. Part B is a care model and a staffing reality. Two facilities with the same bed count can need totally different layouts depending on how care is delivered. Are you team-based? Are there specific supervision needs? What does staffing look like by shift in the real world? Not the ideal staffing plan. Then name the anchor points that staff need. Where do shift reports happen? Where is charting happening? Where does med staging happening? And where can staff decompress? If you cannot name the staff anchors, the layout will default to aesthetics instead of operations. Part C is observation and safety decisions. This is where teams get uncomfortable and therefore vague. But these are layout drivers. What must be seen, by whom, and when? Where do you need controlled access and why? If escalation is part of your reality, then what is your de-escalation approach, and how does staff backup work? And where are your privacy boundaries? Where does privacy matter most? And what level of visibility is still required? If observation and safety decisions are to be decided later, redesign is guaranteed later. And part D is program and throughput. What minimum services are you offering? Therapy, treatment, special programs, anything that has space and MEP implications. Then define peak usage assumptions, not average, peak. And capture admissions and discharge patterns and family visitation patterns, because these change the circulation and the support needs. One of the biggest mistakes is treating throughput as a future operations detail. Throughput is a design driver. And part E is the support space models. This is where rework hides. Decide the medication management model early. Is it centralized versus decentralized? This changes layout and workflow. Decide clean and soiled handling, where it happens and how it moves. Decide equipment, storage, and staging, and decide staff respite and decompress needs, because staff performance under stress is part of resident safety. Now we translate the MVCP into design instructions. Output number 1 is non-negotiable adjacency. We want 5 to 10 items. For example, the staff base adjacent to the highest observation zone, medication staging adjacent to the primary med pass routes, clean supply placed so it supports care zones without crossing soiled flow. These aren't preferences, these are constraints the building must respect to support the clinical program. Output number 2 is the readiness gate. You go to layout lock only if population and risks are clear, observation and safety decisions are made, throughput assumptions are set, and support space models are chosen. And adjacencies are written and agreed to. If any of these are missing, you can still explore concepts, but you cannot approve any direction until it's final. That's how you protect schedule and outcomes. Now let's apply this to a common scenario, a high observation need. The MVCP decision is what must be seen and when. The design implication is sightlines, staff base placement. The trade-off is privacy, but it's handled intentionally, not accidentally. If you decide early that observation is a dominant safety driver, the plan gets clearer and more predictable. If you avoid the decision, the plan drifts, and then you get corrected later at a higher cost. Here's another scenario, escalation risk. If escalation is part of your reality, you need a clear decision about your de-escalation approach and staff backup. The design implications are safe response routes, controlled thresholds, and staff support zones positioned for fast help. The outcome is fewer operational workarounds. The building supports safe response instead of forcing staff to improvise. So let's stitch the series together. The LTC 01 gave you the CAS, the census, acuity, and staffing, so you start from an operational truth. LTC 02 gave you the regulatory map, so that you can see licensure, life safety, and survey expectations early to catch rework triggers. And today, LTC 03 gave you the MVCP, so that you can lock the clinical decisions that drive layout before you approve a plan direction. Together, these tools dramatically reduce late redesign. In the next video, LTC 04, we're going to run a patient and resident safety risk workshop focused specifically on observation, elopement risk, safe harm risk, and control points. That workshop takes the safety and observation decisions we touched on today and turns them into a structured process your team can run before layout is locked. If you want the MVCP one-page tool from today, use the link below, and we will see you in LTC 04.